Spirit of Texas Bank, Nissan, Slovacek Sausage, and Germania Insurance bring you this clip of the Texas Bucket List.
A chance to win the XIT. Come on!
Howdy, and welcome back to the Texas Bucket List. Next up on the show, we head to the Panhandle to visit a museum dedicated to the XIT Ranch, a ranch that can trace its ties all the way back to the capital of Texas.
Who's having a good time on this side?
In the Panhandle Plains of the Lone Star State, the cowboy way lives on thanks to a heritage that hangs on to its Texan traditions. Just before you cross northwest into New Mexico or pass over to Oklahoma, you'll find one of those Texas towns that takes pride in its history thanks to a ranch with some far-reaching roots. Here in Delhart, the XIT Ranch is celebrated on an annual basis at the Rodeo and Reunion. But to get a true appreciation for the history behind this ranch that had a huge role in Texas history, you better start off at the XIT Ranch Museum.
If you're interested in Texas history, this is just one of those stops, one part of the history that you need to just pick up on.
Nick Olson is the curator at the museum that started telling the story of the XIT Ranch back in 1974. But you have to go back almost 100 years prior to that for the whole story about the ranch that at one time was one of the largest in the world. And it all starts with another large establishment, our state capitol.
Well, the state wanted to build a new capitol, 1870s, and the legislature said, okay, we're going to do that. We don't have any money. It was after the Civil War, but we've got 5 million acres in the Panhandle, and we'll set aside 3 million acres for the construction of a capitol building.
After the Capitol building in Austin burned down in 1881, the green light was given to the construction of a domed capitol made of granite from Marble Falls and designed by Elijah E. Myers. Matthias Schnell of Illinois accepted the contract, and the $3.7 million building was on its way to becoming a reality.
They built the Capitol building in Austin, the current Capitol there today, and their payment was this 3 million acres of land.
At 200 miles long and 30 miles wide, the ranch covered 10 counties, reaching as far south as Lubbock. Schnell ended up transferring his interest to 4 Chicago businessmen, brothers Charles and John Farwell, Amos Babcock, and Abner Taylor.
Once in a while, one might come down to visit to see how the holdings were doing down there, you know. But really, it was just not a big interest to them other than the investment they had put into it.
The investors didn't waste any time trying to earn money off their new asset.
Their original intention was to sell the land to get their money back, but the land really wasn't worth a lot of money then, and so they said, well, let's just go ahead and ranch it.
So in 1885, cattle made their way onto the XIT, and so did hundreds of cowboys looking for a job. With Texans running the ranch, it's these pioneers that this place pays particular attention to, the resilient residents that actually worked this part of the Lone Star State.
The ranch started with cowboys that came in from all over the country. After the Civil War, people that needed jobs. They came here and they stayed here. They didn't just come and work and leave. A lot of them left their influence here. Then their family stayed, and so we have a lot of descendants of those early cowboys in this area.
It's just such a vast area that I don't see how they did what they did.
Marles and Kenneth Pace aren't from this part of Texas, but they can relate to the hardworking cowboys who took care of the cattle on the XIT. When these seasoned cowboys saw some of the artifacts at the XIT Ranch Museum, the memories started flooding in like a fast-moving cattle drive.
My granddaddy, Pace, he had a saddle that didn't have no caniper on it. It just straight up with a horn on it. Then I had a buddy had a saddle like that for horses that weren't that dependable.
Here we have a saddle. This belonged to Hugh Rose. He was an XIT cowboy. In 1906, he purchased the saddle for $90, and he made $30 a month, so it took 3 months to pay for the saddle. And this is a photograph of Hugh on that saddle.
The stories of these men who moved their families to Texas just to rope in a job amazes and inspires. They found their roots, dug them deep into the Delhart dirt, and generations have benefited ever since. As the land that made up the XIT was sold off over the years, the last of it in the 1960s, the heirs of these settlers are now the blood that runs through the over 6,000 miles of fence that once made up the XIT.
There's a lot of people that still ranch, raise cattle, and farm, and so that kind of helps give you that connection too. You know, we might have a city or a little town here, but we're still doing a lot of agriculture and involved with people that are. And there are still descendants of some of those early cowboys that are still around.
So this isn't a museum, this is just kind of like a place with old stuff in it for you then.
Well, it is. It is that. Bring back a lot of old memories. Yeah, some of the things you saw when you was a kid. And how times have changed. It was hard times then. And it's changed now where it's all pretty easy going.
You know, like everybody's proud of their history and want to keep promoting. That's what we're doing up here.
You know, it was hard times and we were poor, but we didn't know it. We enjoyed it. Life was good. Life's always good.
The Texas Bucket List is brought to you by Spirit of Texas Bank, Texans helping Texans. Slovacek Sausage, you'll love our sausage. Germania Insurance, the insurance Texans trust. And Nissan, innovation that excites.